All right, chain reaction marketing. Talk to me about what the heck. It sounds super cool. It sounds
Yeah.
cool. Tell me what this is.
Chain reaction marketing. Mercy. It does sound cool, doesn't it? And yet I even want to start by acknowledging something here. We're going to get into some stuff that I think a lot of people miss. And there's like a key component here today within chain reaction marketing that my hope is becomes like this glue that pulls everything together. But I want to start by actually letting your listeners know that we marketers, I'm putting myself in that category right now, we have this funny way about us. We're really good at making everybody think that there's this one little secret that if they just do this thing, everything changes, or like there's something that they're missing. I want to encourage your audience right now that you're doing the right stuff. My guess is if you've been at this for any length of time, that you've got a lot of the right things going on right now. And it's not like there's this, run this special ad and the leads will come pouring in. Like it just isn't really the case, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, every now and then there's these little opportunities that open up with like a quick little tactic that you can do this thing and like it's got some traction, but then it disappears and it's replaced with something else. So what I want to talk about today is like really sound, sustainable practices to running a long-term business. And it's really actually just a shift in the strategy. Again, you're doing all the tactics right. Maybe we should define these terms, Chris. It's like they're doing a lot of the tactics right. My guess is they're on Instagram or social media in some regard, or maybe they're working on their website or SEO or blogging or whatever the tactics are. They're doing a lot of the individual tactics, but we just need to link them together with a bigger picture strategy. And the way we're going to link them is, that's maybe my old. Maybe
Oh no, I lost
help.
you. Hold on, I lost you there.
Me. Oh no.
Yeah, and it was like right at the perfect spot too. The way we're gonna link them is to. Yeah. All right. So let's revisit that. I can hear you again. Okay.
Good. So the way we're going to link them is with chain reaction marketing. And so maybe a visual would help, Chris. Could we paint a picture here? When I say that your audience is probably doing a lot of the right tactics. So like, let's imagine that you're doing some blogging if you're listening right now. Like that's like an individual domino that when we knock it over, boom, that's great. Knocking over the domino is knocking over the domino. You're doing blogging. Fantastic, right? Maybe some of you're on Instagram and you're creating content for your target client. Boom, it's another domino. The issue here is that we've got one domino knocked over and we've got another and they're disconnected. We need to link these together so that way, what if your blogging could also at the same time build your social media, which could also build your local networking, which could also build your SEO, which could also build your vendor word of mouth. Like imagine if everything beget the next thing. The visual that I love to use, it's a kind of this universal scene. I can't even point to the first place that I've seen it, but I know I've seen it. So imagine this. Imagine that you're watching maybe a show or a movie or something and like the main character walks in to a museum. And this is like a comedy bit, right? And they walk into a museum and already you kind of know where this is going. There's like a giant dinosaur T-Rex skeleton in the middle of the museum. And maybe the character is a little clumsy and you're like, oh gosh. and they go and they trip over like a pencil or something like that, or maybe over their shoestring, and they fumble and right before they're about to crash into the dinosaur bone, they catch themselves and there's like this giant sigh of relief. But then like out of their pocket falls like a little bouncy ball. And then the bouncy ball, like it hits a coffee cup and the coffee cup falls over. And then the coffee cup, it knocks over a book. Then the book knocks over like the leg of a lamppost. And the lamppost knocks over a statue. And the bust of the statue falls and it knocks over the welcome sign. And the welcome sign falls and it knocks over a podium. The podium falls and it knocks over the pole that's holding up like the skull of the giant T-Rex. And the entire skeletal structure stays together except for the skull falls. And then like the character makes eye contact, usually break the fourth plane, they break the fourth wall, they look at the camera and like behind the main character, then all the bones fall. It's like, it's whatever that scene is. That's what we want to happen with chain reaction marketing, where that's like critical mass, where we kind of get to this point that every action that we're doing within our business is building this energy. What's it called in investing? Compounding, right? Yep. That's what we want to have happen.
Yep. And what I love about this is you kind of touched on this idea that like there's fad marketing. There's like, oh, you have to be running this specific video ad right now or whatever, right? And then there's this like tried and true, there are no secrets. It's just being intentional about what you're doing. And I don't think that these things preclude the other. You know, you can, if you have this solid foundational stuff going on in the background, when those fads do come along, yeah, by all means, go knock out that real quick video that's going to get you that really quick, hit. Great. Dump those people into this really solid, sustainable process, so that you can have long-term results rather than just these quick injections of people and this idea of just constantly bouncing from thing to thing, because I know that that's a thing for us. And I know it's a thing that a lot of our photographers deal with, is this idea that like, well, I tried this thing, but if I'm honest, I probably didn't even stick with it long enough to get any results before I moved on to the next thing. And I think that's the trap that we fall into with this kind of fad marketing. So I love this idea of like, no, let's talk about a process that instead there are no secrets to it. It's just about being intentional about putting the right pieces in the right place, and letting sort of that, letting the potential energy turn into kinetic energy, let it convert, let it kind of drive its own flywheel. So what would a process look like that takes advantage of this chain reaction?
Yeah. Well, it's really just a set of questions that I'd encourage your audience to ask themselves before they do anything. Maybe a brief story on this, maybe like an example. So personally, I've been a wedding photographer here for the last, I think it's been 12 or 13 years. It's like,
they all blur together.
It's like, oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when
that's
you
how
add on the next year.
Yeah, that's how I figured out. How old are my kids? Wait, okay, that's
exactly. Awesome. So early on, I believe it was like 2013, and we decided to do a bridal show. Now, it doesn't really matter what you think about bridal shows. This is an example. We decided to do a bridal show. We showed up. We rocked the show. I mean, I thought we blew it out of the water, had an incredible setup. Our work's great with people, that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, sweet, we just nailed it. We knocked over this domino, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be incredible for us. And then we go home, and it's crickets. And I really bought into the idea. It's a pretty common idea. It's not uncommon. Even some of the people listening to this right now are thinking like, well, yeah, it's because you went to a bridal show, and bridal show attract budget clients, and bridal shows are for beginner photographers, and bridal shows are a waste of energy and a waste of time. And maybe you're thinking that right now. I certainly did. I was like, yeah, that's all those things. I should have just listened to what I was hearing in the industry, that bridal shows really aren't a great solution. Well, I believed that for a couple of years. And I figured out some other ways to get some clients in the door. And then later, I was gifted a show. There was a venue that really wanted, they valued working with us. We had already worked there a lot, and they just wanted us to be represented at the show. And so they gifted us a spot, right? Fantastic. And I'm thinking right off the bat, well, I don't really want to waste my time again. Right. But, I wanted to maintain a relationship with the venue. And so I decided to go. But I'm like, well, listen, if this is already a free show, if this has already been gifted to me, then let me do something different this time. Like, let's try something different than what I did in the past. And so I went into this situation, and I asked myself, okay, great. So I'm at this show. Who are the other vendors that are at this show that I could maybe build a relationship with? Because in a lot of ways I was thinking the show's already a waste. I'm going to do the best I can to get something out of it. So who can I build relationships with at this venue? What are maybe some ways that I could capture every attendee's email address so that way I could bring them into my nurturing email sequence afterwards? Is there a blog post that I could drive everyone to, direct them to? That way I could pixel them, and then I could also show them retargeting ads. I wonder if I could maybe plan a styled session with a set of vendors who are at this show afterwards, and then we could produce a whole blog post around that as well. I also didn't want to deal with renting furniture and all that stuff like I did the first time because I had this big booth set up. And so I went and I contacted some of the people who are going to be at the show, a stylist, a florist, and a stager. And I did a trade with them so that way they would provide me with all of their assets. So that way at the show, I just had all the florist floral. And I had the stager's couch and their like fancy stuff. And I handed out their material anytime somebody complimented it. And then they had at their booth photographs of my pictures of their artwork represented. I say all this because after that show, we brought in over $70,000 in sales just from that show. And I'd asked myself, what was the difference? The difference was in the linking. It was in the chain reaction marketing that was going on. Meaning this, maybe this will be helpful for you to kind of hear. My number one rule of marketing is that if the marketing effort is one-dimensional, it's unilateral, as in it's a bridal show. So I'm going to go to this bridal show. It's going to attract couples to it, and I will book couples. That is one-dimensional thinking. Okay. So if a marketing effort is one-dimensional, it's either inefficient and you shouldn't do it, or more likely you just haven't thoroughly thought through all the possibilities. Right? It's either inefficient, you shouldn't do it. You should be like, this is just unilateral. This is inefficient. It's not worth my time. Or more likely, you just haven't thoroughly thought through how you can connect it. Okay? That's what I took away from this. And so now, anytime I'm going to do anything in my business, I ask myself a series of questions. I kind of go through this checklist of all these questions I could ask myself. And through the inquiry, I start to kind of consider new possibilities of ways that this can connect to other opportunities and become far more impactful. Because listen, you only got so much time. I bet so many of your listeners, they're solopreneurs. Maybe they got a partner in this game, and their time is direly limited. And if it's not their time, it's their resources, it's their money. And so we need our money to go so much further, and we need our time to go so much further. And so it's worth the effort to slow down, to ask yourself these questions before just simply jumping in to the next tactic.
Yeah. Dude, this is great. This reminds me of, you'll have to follow me on this because it's probably going to sound ridiculous, but there's this concept in sustainable farming called stacking functions, where when it's exactly like you're saying. Basically, rather than have this one asset, this one thing do one job, it should either do multiple jobs or support the job of the next thing that you stack on top of it. So an example of this in like the sustainable gardening and sustainable farming world is if you have certain types of plants that you're trying to get fruits from, but there's a specific type of pest that might try to get to that fruit. Well, there are other plants that you can plant around it that will naturally repel those pests. And if you can do these things, if you can plant these things with intention, then you'll have a much more bountiful garden out of this. Yes. I am only this much knowledgeable on it. My wife is super knowledgeable on this, but she keeps talking to me about this because we talk about the same ideas with the sales process. Where so for anybody listening who has listened to me at any length, you know that I talk about connecting the dots for people and how none of the steps exists in a vacuum. Everything builds upon the previous step. That's exactly what we're talking about here, but now just in a marketing context. It's just being, I keep using this word, but being intentional about what we're doing rather than just throwing stuff and seeing if it sticks, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
This
so
is
I
so
want to
good.
hear
No,
these
I
questions.
love I love the example you gave of sustainable farming. Right now, we are planting, we just have like a raised flower bed, not flower bed, a
Yeah.
raised, what's it called? Garden? Raised garden?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, like we're just trying to like grow cucumbers and tomatoes, but like we don't have the whole sustainable thing going on.
Yeah.
And so like the amount of energy and effort that we're putting into this one tomato plant
Right.
is just, it's silly. It's like we've got it surrounded because the bunnies were coming in, so we've got it surrounded with like a cage, and then we're spraying it with stuff, and like we're doing so much just to like, sometimes you gotta ask yourself, is
tomato,
the juice worth the squeeze?
Right.
And because it's just not sustainable. It's just really not. But here we are, we're still doing it. And you're right. This is how a lot of us look within our business, where we are obsessing over trying to get this one thing right, and we're spending so much of our time and money just obsessing over it. And maybe it eventually works, but it could go so much bigger and smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So I want to hear these questions that you asked.
Yeah. Well, these are just like, here's the benefit to this. I imagine some of your listeners are portrait photographers. Some of them are wedding photographers. Even in the portrait space, you've got boudoir photographers, and you got family and babies, and they're all so different. One of the great things about some of these questions that you could ask yourself is this isn't niche specific. Because if you're a boudoir photographer, maybe you're not going to be at a bridal show. Although maybe you should be, because that's a great place to get some boudoir clients. But I digress. You know what I'm saying, right? So these questions they're niche agnostic. It's just like, these are great questions to ask yourself, and it's just a starting place. All right. But one of the very first questions that I would encourage your audience to ask themselves is, when we're thinking about the strategy of our business, I want to actually pull back even further, because I've coached at this point thousands of photographers, and I've seen all too often photographers build a business that becomes a prison wall for the life that they say they want, like a wall keeping them out of the life that they say they want, right? Because we're just on the hamster wheel, and we're building, we're putting out fires, and eventually we get this thing going and it's cooking. We got clients out the door, and we have money coming in, but we look at our life and we're trapped. We're like, this isn't what I said I wanted. So I want to actually encourage you, as you're thinking about your marketing effort, it's all moving you towards something. Listen closely. Every single thing in your business, every marketing effort, everything that you sell, everything that you offer your clients, this is all taking you someplace in your life, like in your personal life.
Yeah.
And it's worth slowing down to consider, are these efforts taking me to the place that I want to arrive at in my own life? And so before you start thinking about running a engagement session giveaway or a model call, just consider, how can this marketing effort move my business closer to the vision that I have for myself? And so maybe you're unclear about that. Like an example would be, there's a lot of photographers who, like, maybe you want to start photographing in like, Colorado, like the mountains of Colorado. Like, wouldn't that be cool? If you were able to slow down enough to consider, man, I'm really not very happy here in Ohio photographing, cornfield weddings. I think it'd be really cool to get some elopements down in Colorado. I think that'd be really fun and exciting during this stage of my life right now, where I'm young and I could travel and I could do this kind of stuff. Well, great. So I'm thinking about doing a giveaway ad. I hear photographers talking about running Facebook ads and maybe doing some sort of giveaway as an incentive. Well, okay, if I want to be in Colorado, maybe that's going to shift how I run my ad. Maybe it's going to shift the marketing efforts that I do. And so I would just first start by encouraging people to slow down and to consider, what is the business that they want? Honestly, there's photographers who right now, you're just on the hamster wheel of portraiture. You've just been doing families and babies for so long, and it's all that you currently know, but you're unhappy. But you also know it's all you got right now.
Right.
Okay? And you really want to do boudoir. It's like, man, I just really wish I could do boudoir. I could slow down. I could spend time pouring into women and their lives and empowering them. And I could create this studio work instead of crying babies and in the woods and the cold, whatever it is. But you
in
have
the
to slow
woods
down
in
enough.
the cold.
Sorry, again, Ohio.
Yeah, I was. That.
Because I do family sessions. I used to do family sessions, and I wouldn't do them in studio. I do them out on location. And these families always be like, "Let's go meet in the woods." I'm like, "Damn it!"
Yeah, cool. Trees. Excellent.
But anyhow, again, so maybe there's a way that you could do a marketing effort that maybe could still build your bread and butter, could maintain your business and keep money coming in, but it would allow you some opportunities to offer boudoir. Yeah. If you just slow down enough to consider, man, how could I begin to introduce this new offering, this new service into my business model? That's all I mean to say. So try to go one level back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like we're essentially talking about how I think we do this in lots of different type of businesses as small business owners. We set out to build a business and sometimes end up just building a job.
Yes.
It's like, oh, exactly. Cool. I've made myself a job. Now I'm just 9 to 5 working for me. Cool. Yep. It comes back to intention. Step back, set your intentions, figure out, hey, where am I headed? And is all this stuff I'm doing getting me there? If it's not going to get me there, then what's the point? Yeah. Maybe the point is, well, I have to, eat on my way there. Okay, cool. Keep doing some of it, but making sure that at least some of your effort is now going toward getting you to where you want to be. I love this, man. Yeah. I love this.
It's a shiny object. We see these things. It kind of goes back to the trend marketing, but even it can be a service. Even for myself, I coach photographers. I think within the coaching space, most photographers are like, well, you got to do group coaching.
Yeah.
That's like the thing, or even one-on-one coaching. And I started to do that. And I quickly had to begin to ask myself, is this actually building me the life that I say that I want? Because now I can only help one person at a time, or there's a group of people and it's eating into all of my hours. Yeah. And so I had to start asking myself this question: what is the life that I say that I want? And it's one that I can impact as many photographers as possible, location independent. So that way, when I move to Tampa, I can continue to pour into them. So this is why my energy has shifted, and it's gone into the podcast. It's gone into the free weekly coaching inside of the community that I have. It's gone into Book Solid, where I can continue to coach photographers online and then provide them support through Instagram, DMs. And so that's just a quick idea. Again, I think as a consultant or a coach, it's like, well, who's a coach that doesn't offer one-on-one or group coaching? And people are always shocked that I don't do it.
Right.
It's like, well, I had to ask myself, is this move me towards the life that I say that I want? And I was like, well, no, it's really not. Okay, cool. Let's shift.
That is exactly where we are. So I don't know if you know, but we sold all of our stuff about 10 months ago. Sold the house, sold basically everything in it. We live in a camper now. It's
nice.
A camper. So we're in Florida right now. We're in Vero Beach, Florida right now.
Yeah.
And it was this kind of decision that was like, hey, you know what? It's exactly what we're talking about right now, Ben. This is not the life that I had planned for me, where I was just kind of day in and day out, just in the office. I immensely enjoy what it is that I do as a coach and as a business owner, but I wasn't spending enough time with my kids. We decided, let's hit the road. In the exact same conversation that you just had is the conversation that I had with my team, where it was like, hey, we want to start selling, we really want to ramp up sales of the group coaching and the one-on-one coaching aspects. And I'm like, no, we have to pull back from that. That's not where we're trying to go. Right now, at least this season in life is about stepping back from that and trying to get as much time with my family as I can, while also continuing to grow our business. So yeah, it's not that we're saying, okay, we're not going to do this stuff anymore, but it's a shift in intent. It's a shift in what is it that we're doing and priorities. Okay, right now the priority is, let's make sure that we're building up the things that don't require as much one-on-one time for me, so I can be out enjoying, the keys or something with the kids. So, anyway, it's just funny you say that, because it's literally the exact conversations we've been having with our team. Yeah. Man, I love talking to you. I can't believe that it's taken this long for us to get back on a call. Okay. So we've stepped back we've said, okay, where am I going with all of this?
Yeah.
And is this actually leading to where I want to go? Mm-hmm. Now, where do we go from here? When it comes to like rubber meets the road, what do I do?
Yeah. So again, what you do, like, this could fall into any number of tactics. So what you do is less important, but to your point though, so now I decided, great. I'm going to put together I'm going to start blogging. Let's just go with that for now. I'm going to start blogging. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm going to start blogging. Great. So one of the questions is, great, so what are you going to, in this specific example, what are you going to blog? But who else could I partner with? I want to encourage you to start thinking now about relationships. Who else could you partner with to make whatever this marketing effort is a success? Yep. Right. And so blogging is kind of it's an ongoing thing. So maybe each blog, is there somebody else that you could partner with within the blog? Who else do you know that shares in the vision that you have, or who else is maybe already doing whatever it is that you're considering doing?
Yep.
Just to start thinking about the relational side of things. I've discovered over, again, 13 years or so, that it's literally all relationships. Don't get me wrong. You could strong arm this thing and you could solo it and you could just grind on your own, or you could go together and you can build everybody else's tower. And it's really all about relationships. The opportunities that you want the most it's a relationship away. And so I'm always looking to that. Where are there opportunities to network and to bring this together with somebody else? If we could just brainstorm on this. Again, I'm going to go off the cuff here. Complete brainstorm. We could think about any marketing effort and let's consider what could I do to bring in another person who's doing this. And so within one of the things I love doing is within like advertising. Is there a way that I could bring in another person to also market this to their audience? And then they could share in the ad cost. I could push it out to my audience to build theirs. They could push it out to their audience to build mine. Now I'm not going to have to front 100% of the bill. It's also building the offline relationship because we're doing online relationships together. And so now we're also disconnected in our businesses as it is. And so maybe there's other places that we could, build this out, but that would be one. Blogging. We were just talking about blogging, but you could have someone come in and they could either guest blog for you, or they could even just commentate. They could you could co-author. They could add in, hey, I interviewed this florist on their take on some of the top trends for fall weddings, like I'm showing you right here, this fall wedding on floral, and here's their stuff. And if you'd like to check out more, you can, so maybe there's that. I mean, we could just go through any other ideas and just consider to ask, man, how could I do this not alone? Even with Instagram Reels. I just did an Instagram Reel the other day where I showed the walls in my home, the gallery walls that I've put together for my clients. And I was sharing this on the Instagram Reel, and I thought to myself, well, how can I make this go further? Well, I could tag the company who I get all these printed from. And not only could I tag them, I could reach out to them and say, hey, I'm going to make a reel with you. Could I invite you as a collaborator? When you invite somebody as a collaborator in Reels, it posts up to their page as well. And whatever their views get, your video gets the same views. And whatever your video views get, theirs gets the same. And so you're sharing views and impact, and it's making the whole thing spiral. And so I'm tagging Millers, I'm tagging Kiss albums. You know what I mean? This is just another way to do it. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. We've talked about this idea. I have floated this. So if anybody who's listening does this, then tell me, because I want to talk to somebody who does this. I've floated this idea with a handful of photographers, especially in the wedding photography market, where you go to one vendor of each type in your market, and you build out this basically email course where each vendor submits one email to it, and it's like how to plan your Nashville wedding, right? And like the photographer chimes in with choosing the right photographer, the florist chimes in with choosing the right flowers for the time of year where you get married, right? And then you collectively market this free email course that shows off all of your work And, each one of those has a little call to action at the bottom of it so that anybody who's a part, any bride who's come into that sequence has the ability to learn more about you and about your business. And I mean, this stuff's easy. It's so easy now to set up something like this. And like you said, now we're getting the feedback, we're getting the traffic from a whole group of people rather than just our own individual efforts. Yeah. So this is awesome. This is awesome. I love this, man.
And this stuff, like, this will get to my next question, but like, this carries real value and meaning outside of the effort in itself. Like, this doesn't just end at the tactic. Like, if I were to do this where I reached out to a florist and asked, for them to share some of their work on a post of mine or something, and then I also was like, I'd love to add you to my preferred vendor list. Like, that begins to open up a door for us relationally, like long term. And this is one of those important things that any effort that I'm asking, I'm always also asking, how long is this effort going to like exist as a viable thing? Because like, for example, Reels, we'll talk about Reels because they're trending right now, right? They have an okay shelf life. They last about like 2 weeks. Sometimes they can last a little longer in terms of like the reach that they get your account, right? They kind of pop off for a 2-week period of time. Okay. YouTube has a much longer shelf life than that. This is why I actually have started to consider, man, why am I not making actually really high quality, long-term YouTube content that just exists for years, right? Yeah. But I say this because when you can start incorporating a relationship into anything, it immediately creates a much longer timeline of the impact of whatever it is that you're up to, right? And that's what I'm looking for. These people are in business for, 5 to 10 years, that they could be continuing to pour back into your business. Yeah. The last thing that I want to say, Chris, is that for anyone who's listening to this that is disqualifying themselves right now because they're like, well, that's great, but I don't have relationship with anybody. I'm new and they already have relationships with everybody else. This is, there's a couple of thoughts here. One is, this is like being the new kid at school. And it's like, well, I don't have any friends. It's really as easy as saying like, hi, I'm Ben. I don't know anybody and I'm new here. I think I like you. Right. Do you want to be friends?
Can I sit at your table? Yeah.
Can I sit at your table? Yeah. And the other thing is this, every opportunity that I've gotten, I have acted as though I were an investor in their company. Literally an investor, like on the board. Like I've got money riding on their success. I've acted as though I was an investor in their business before they ever knew my name. It's how I've gotten every opportunity, every sponsorship. I've been an ambassador with I don't know how many companies. Every sponsorship thing, it's because I acted as though I was already sponsored by them.
Yeah.
Like actually, Ona bags. Ona bags makes the most gorgeous camera bags that exist. Genuine leather. These things are like heirlooms. It is a lifetime purchase when you buy these bags. My kid will receive my camera bag. And I got so fed up with buying a bag like once every 2 years because they just rip and break down and stuff. So I got an Ona bag. And I've started shouting Ona's name to the rooftops. I've been incorporating Ona bags in all my Instagram reels and I'm tagging them all the time as though I was on their team. They don't even know my damn name until one day they did.
I bet
so one day they messaged me and they were like, hey, thank you. And that's all it was. And I was like, hey, you're welcome. Thanks for making the best damn bags ever. I'll see you next week.
Right.
So,
right.
And then they reached out again. They're like, hey, is there something we could partner with on? It's like, done. This is
like, okay, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times we as photographers are thinking about how do I get on everybody else's preferred vendor list? Knock it off. How about you make your own damn preferred vendor list, put them on it before they even know who you are and just start preaching for them? What if you started to share their posts, share their stories on your stories? It's been like, this is a florist who I've been watching for the last 6 months and they're doing mind-blowing work. If you need a florist, you need to go check them out. Tag them below. You've never worked with them and you can still say that. You've never worked, but if it's true, like if you've just done the research and you're like, they're so good, right? And then that florist replies back like, OMG, thank you so much. That was really kind of you. Now you're talking in DMs. That's like better than the inbox these days. Right. And it just goes from there. I digress.
Dude, No, this is fantastic. So I think we should probably end there. I want to say this though. For anybody watching or listening or however this is, because we take your approach here and we repurpose the stuff in lots of different ways. So if you're watching, listening, whatever, and you don't know Ben Hartley, first of all, you probably already do. But if you don't, you need to. I think you can tell Ben's the real deal. There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of hype in lots of stuff. Ben is the real deal. And what I like about you, Ben, is that you are about relationships. And you're just such a positive voice in this industry. I never hear you talking about any negativity. You're always building people up. I love that about you. I wanted to tell you that as much to your face as we can these days, right?
Appreciate it. Yeah.
But if you don't know Ben Hartley, get to know Ben Hartley. Get to know him. Get to know all of the stuff that he teaches. He's very, very good at this and has just the track record in his own business and in his clients' businesses to show for it. So where is the best spot that someone can go to, Ben, to kind of connect better with you?
I appreciate it. Chris, thank you so much. The best place is I have a mastermind group. It's completely free. I do free coaching there every single week. There's usually 2 or 3 videos that I'm live in each week for photographers. And the best place to get that is if they pull their phone right now, if you text the word join to 614-714-1644.